So what happened with Toronto real estate in August? Well, in this video, we're going to go through the TREBB report. So remember, TREBB stands for the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, and they've just released August numbers. And I think for some of you, the numbers are going to shock you just because it wasn't what anybody expected. And make sure you stay until the end because we're not just covering off Toronto. We'll look at some other markets as well. So let's get to it. Hi everybody, my name is Connie Sarvanandan. I'm a real estate agent and investor here in Toronto and the GTA, and I think we should just get straight to the report. Okay, so this is the report and it's coming from the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, and so TRREB, which stands for the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board.ca. So TREBB.ca is where you can find this report. There's a summary report as well as a full report, which is what we're looking at right now. And it's produced every month, and it takes into account not just the city of Toronto, but other markets outside of Toronto. So this is anything that went on MLS that was listed within the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. And so this is their comments for section, and if you look at what they are saying is really that they need to, what they are recommending is that homeowners find some relief on some of the mortgage conditions that they're going to be facing. And this isn't just for new buyers that they're suggesting this, but it's also for people who are renewing their mortgages, that putting them under the stress test with all of these increases in interest rates is not really sustainable, and they want to find different housing solutions, different lending solutions to address people who are facing renewals that may find it challenging, including looking at things like extending the amortization to beyond 25 years to things like in the US, they have 30-year amortizations. So that's what the real estate board is saying, and the TREBB president is commenting in this section. Okay, so one of the things I really like about this report is it tells you other things that are happening in the economy for the month of July as well. So it gives you, inflation's still at 7.6%. The Bank of Canada is at 2.5% right now. The prime rate is sitting at 4.7%, and these are the mortgage rates based from 1 year to 5 year. So remember, the Bank of Canada, their goal is really to make sure that inflation doesn't get out of control, and they are expecting another rate hike for Bank of Canada to get this inflation number down. So with that said, what's been happening in the marketplace? Well, sales activity, this is the actual volume of sales, is down significantly from last year, and we've been seeing this similar trend in other months, but it's down 34% versus August 2021. Now, here's the interesting thing, and this is probably why it's so shocking to a lot of people and not expected, which is the average price. So the average price in August 2021 was $1,070,000, and right now for August 2022, the average price is $1,079,000. So the average price is still up versus a year ago. But the shocking thing is the average price is slightly up versus July. So I think everybody was expecting August average price to drop, just like it's been dropping every month since February, but actually it went up slightly. So this is the first time we've seen this happen since February, and we'll look at the exact numbers when we get to the bottom of the report, but that's probably the most shocking thing that is in this report. I think everybody was expecting this number to continue downwards. Now, it might happen in September, but right now for August, it did not happen. So what are the overall year-over-year numbers? So like we said, sales is down 34%. New listings is basically flat. So those are new listings coming to the market. Active listings are up significantly. So this is the number of active listings that are on the market right now versus a year ago. The average price, like we said, was up slightly at 0.9%. The average days on market for a listing is up 37%. So in 2021, it was at 16 days and now it's at 22 days. Now the average property days on market. So what's the difference between these two numbers? This is just when something gets listed, and this is the property as a whole. So if you had a property that was listed and then the price got changed, then it would be reflected in the property days on market, versus just if somebody terminated it and relisted it, it would be showing up in the listing days on market. So both of these are up significantly. The listing is up 37%, the property is up 60%. So we're looking at, for 2022, 22 days and 34 days. So significantly higher than what we've seen, which talks to the fact that the market is normalizing, and we're no longer in the crazy seller's market that we had up until February. Okay, so now let's look at some specific areas, including Toronto, the Toronto core. So before we get to the individual markets, I did just want to look at the type of home and what's happening by the type of home. So this is broken out by sales and average price, and it's actually broken out by 416 and 905. So for those of you unfamiliar with Toronto, inside Toronto, you're looking at a 416 area code, and outside of Toronto, you're looking at a 905 area code. So Toronto Central would be 416, the GTA would be 905. So if you look at average price points and what's been happening, you'll see that for detached homes are actually down 3.1% for the month of August, and versus a year ago. And so detached homes are now sitting at 1,379,000, and that's down 3.1% from a year ago. And that's being driven by the 905, which was down 3.7% for detached, versus the 416, which was down 1.7%. When it comes to semi-detached are also down. They're down 3.4%. So a semi-detached right now in the GTA, the average price point is $998,000. So basically $1 million for a semi-detached. Now that decline is being driven by the 416. Then we look at townhouses, which are actually up 2.9%. And so they're sitting at around $900,000. And that increase is actually being driven by the 905, which is up 3.7%. And then finally, we have condos, which for the GTA, we're sitting at $711,000 for the average price point. And that increase is also being driven by the 905, because that 3.6% overall, and 6% of that, 6% in the 905 area. So it's kind of an interesting picture overall of what's happening by the different types of homes, because it's not the same across the board, and detached homes are definitely feeling it more. And that speaks to the price points and affordability, and remember, your buyer pool gets smaller as you go up the chain, so that also speaks to the ones that aren't going to be affordable as you go up the chain. They're definitely going to be the most hard hit. So then let's get to the individual areas now. If you're finding value in these videos, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out, and it lets me know what kind of content you're interested in watching. And if you have any real estate needs, feel free to call, text, email, or WhatsApp, and we'll be sure to take care of you. And finally, if you want to talk to me directly, feel free to contact me. My calendar link is down below. Okay, so this is some of the report. This is for all home types for August 2022, and it includes all TREBB areas. So these are all the areas that are included in TREBB, and it's really based on what's put into the TREBB system. So not only are you going to have Toronto, the city of Toronto right here, you're going to have it by the different regions as well. So Halton region, which would include places like Burlington, Halton Hills, Milton. Then you have like Peel region, which includes places like Mississauga. Then you have Toronto, York, Georgina. There's all these different places that are included in this report. So that's why it's not only TREBB, but it's not only Toronto, but it's also the GTA. The other thing that's interesting is, like I said, we were looking at not only the average price, but the median price. So like we said, for all of TREBB, the average price right now is sitting at $1,079,500, but the median price is $930,000. And then when you look at City Toronto specifically, the average price is sitting at $1,031,000, almost $1,032,000, and then the median price is $820,000. And if you look at the most expensive areas for the median price and the average price, with the exception of King, which King is like, most of the homes in King are quite expensive, and there's not a ton of them, so King can get very skewed. But if you look at outside of King, what's really sticking out right now is Richmond Hill. They have quite a high average price of $1,367,000 and quite a high median price of $1,300,000. So again, these are the details that you can get into within this report. It goes into a lot of different details. But now let's get to the last page of the report, which shows not only year-on-year trending, but it's showing what happened in all of 22 so far. Okay, so this is the last page of the report, and when they do this page, they actually use average price. So remember, when you're looking at the data, try and look at the average price as well as the median price, because if something is skewing the data, then at least you will know by looking at both of them. And as you can see, in 2010, the average price in Toronto was $431,000. And then by 2020, it more than doubled to $929,000. And then in 2021, the ending average annual price was $1,095,000. That's the annual, actually. It ended December at $1,157,000. And then what you'll see is January continued to grow to 1.242 million, and then in February we hit our peak at 1,334,000. And then what happened after February was that the prices started to drop. So February was definitely the peak. It dropped in March, then it dropped again in April, then it dropped in May, it dropped in June, and it dropped in July. So in July, we were at 1,073,730. And then in August, for the first time since February, we actually went up slightly. So 1,079,500. So again, this I think is the biggest shocker for most people, as people were expecting this trend to continue. Now, will September prove to be a continued downward trend? We don't know. We do know that Bank of Canada is doing another rate announcement. And again, Bank of Canada is responsible for trying to curb inflation, but obviously that policy affects other policies and definitely influences things like the prime rate and where we'll end up with mortgage rates. So September will be really telling to see what happens, if this trend is going to continue where it stays flat. Is it going to go down? Is it going to go up? But right now, August was flat to last year and flat to July. And this is the first time we've seen that in a while. So what do I think about all of this? Well, I think it's actually quite fascinating. I mean, first of all, I don't think anybody expected pricing to be flat or slightly up versus a year ago. I think all the experts, the positive ones and the negative ones, were expecting August numbers to have another decline. So that's really interesting, and that kind of reinforces the fact that nobody really knows what's going to happen with the real estate market. There's just too many unknown factors, especially with COVID and how COVID is affecting all of us. And definitely this summer, we had a very different summer than we've had in the past 2 years. People could finally travel, people could finally do things, and I'm not necessarily sure real estate was on the forefront of a lot of people's minds. Now, summers are generally quiet, but in the last 2 years, the cycles of real estate have been really off. So I definitely think September will be a much truer picture of what's going to happen within the real estate market as things kind of settle down, kids are back at school, and then the housing market hopefully will go into a more normal pattern. So that said, how do I feel about all of this? Well, I think if you're a seller, this is probably good news for you, that prices haven't continued to decline in August. So if you are selling right now or about to, then that's probably a good thing for you. As a buyer, I also think it's a good time for you just because we are now flat to last year. So even though the pricing is maybe still higher than what you want it to be, it's not as crazy as it has been at the beginning of the year. And then from a personal standpoint, something interesting that's happened to me this week is I've had 2 different buyers who had taken themselves out of the market that don't know each other independently called me and asked me to start their search again. Now, both of these buyers have been looking at homes, but at the beginning of the year, both of them had said, you know what, I'm not going to be buying something right now, not with the prices the way that they are. They just felt like it was too high. One of the buyers is a first-time buyer, and they originally started with a budget, and it just got whittled away. So they kind of got frustrated and didn't feel comfortable with where the prices were. Then the second is an investor, and it was the same thing for this investor. They were trying to find a rental property, and they just couldn't find something where the numbers made sense, where the rents were going to cover off some of the costs or most of the cost of the property with the mortgage rates the way that they were. So both these clients are now actively looking again. And yes, they are fully aware that Bank of Canada is going to make another rate announcement in the next couple of weeks. And remember, Bank of Canada's role is to manage inflation, but ultimately it does have an effect on mortgage rates. So even with that, they are even with the fluctuations in mortgage rates, they are still comfortable starting to look again. So I think if you're thinking about buying, that you need to make sure you're comfortable with what's happening right now and understand it, so that if you do decide to buy, you understand exactly what you're getting into. You understand what's happening in the marketplace right now for the pocket you're interested in and the type of dwelling you're interested in, as well as understanding what happened to those types of properties during the pandemic and pre-pandemic. Because in that way, when the opportunity comes up, not only will you be prepared, but you'll be happy to make an offer because you will understand fully what you're getting into. And like I said, always, the more you know, the better your buying or selling experience will be. So that's it. If you have any questions, if you agree or disagree, I would love to hear them in the comments below. And if you liked what you heard, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. And finally, if you have any real estate needs in Toronto or the GTA, feel free to call, text, email, or WhatsApp, and we'll be sure to take care of you. And of course, if you want to talk to me directly, my calendar link is below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.